Okay, here we go. Hello guys, how are we all doing? Welcome back to yet another video, folks. Today we'll be predicting for the Champions League, Europa League and Conference League quarterfinals first leg. So much to look forward to, folks. Who will win the Champions League, who will win the Europa League and who will win the Europa Conference League? All to play for, folks. We've got some 4 matches in the Champions League, but I'm doing some Europa League predictions, 3 Europa League predictions, and Europa Conference League for Chelsea as well. But let's get stuck into it. First up tomorrow on Prime Video, Arsenal versus Real Madrid. Arsenal have more or less fallen the ball so given on the Premier League title race, and as they now search for their European glory with a quarter-final tie against European champions. But before we get into the YouTube channel, hit the thumbs up button and hit the subscribe, subscribe to the channel, and it's free to do. And welcome to my K Days and K Diaries video. Right. Mikel Arteta's Arsenal coming into this one on the back of a frustrating result at the weekend, as the Gunners shared a 1-1 draw with Everton at Goodison Park in a game which the Toffees equalises late-ish in the second half, but due to a controversial penalty. But the Gunners now sit 11 points behind league leaders Liverpool domestically, but the return of Bukayo Saka to the Arsenal squad will give them belief they can take to the game of Real Madrid side. That they are unconvincing but underwhelming form at the moment. But that's fairly average campaign in terms of performance. But level continue at the weekend for Real Madrid, but Los Barcelos suffered a 2-1 defeat at home to Felicia at the weekend, but now they meet 4 points clear behind leaders Barcelona in the La Liga. Somehow though, Madrid do just about remain in contention for the table, but after they squeezed through to the final of the Copa del Rey last week after a 4-3 defeat at home to Real Sociedad before Antor Origa send them through with a 115th minute strike in extra time. That was crazy. Arsenal, as mentioned, will sneak once again to rise out everything they can from Bukayo Saka, but his ability to taunt defenders both on the inside but outside will give them, the Gunners, a chance against the Los Barcelos side, lacking clarity and conviction, but they appeared a little disjoint, but they confused in the chat. But they do come up against an Arsenal side. They have some key defence issues, but such as injury to Gabriel. Both teams scoring may well be a good bet for a first leg between two flawed sides, and that's why I'm going for a 1-1 draw. I think this game has draw written all over it. This will be an absolute cracking game. Right, let's move on to Bayern Munich versus Inter Milan. We have a repeat of the 2010 Champions League final at the Allianz Arena as Germany's champions elite Bayern Munich take on a dominant side in Italy in Talarasila this week. And Bayern Munich went into the March international break off the back of some underwhelming performance in the Bundesliga, for the Bavarians have returned to the break after recharging their batteries. 6 points clear of the defending champions Bayern Leverkusen with 6 games left. They overcame an aforementioned Leverkusen in impressive style in the round of 16, but Champions League last month defeating their compatriots by 5-0 on the aggregate, with Harry Kane in particular in excellent form ahead of this quarter-final. As for Simon Alegio's Inter Taliezo ropes up their 20th Serie A title and second start upon their badge last season, with Nazirla remain at the top of the table once again in Italy. But despite some unconvincing performances and results throughout the campaign, they are chasing the treble this season. They have held to 2 draws in their last 2 games. The first in the derby of Madonna against FC Milan in the first leg in the Coppa, but Italia's semi-final tie last week before a 2-2 draw with Parma, but Alessio Torre at the weekend. Bayern Munich have perhaps been native when they come up against the stronger teams this season, but their performances across 2 legs against Leverkusen will give them huge confidence ahead of this one. But at their best, Inter will fancy their chances of seeing off most of all the sides in Europe, but with the tight defence, tactical nunts, and some clarity in attack, but injuries in the final third, and a lack of consistency with their general steadiness, but at the back, but would suggest Bayern Munich may well be the team to beat the side with this first leg in Brava. And I'm going to go for a 2-1... Oh, a 2-1 win to Bayern Munich. Right, first up. Third up. Barcelona versus Dortmund. Right, for what is a Champions League quarter-final featuring last season's runner-up, but it does look it could be a very one-sided affair as Barcelona takes on Borussia Dortmund this week. But Hansi Flick's Barcelona didn't overly punish Real Madrid's defeat at Felicia's at the Bernabeu at the weekend. But yeah, in a minute. Bologna did extended their lead at the top of La Liga to 4 points, courtesy of a 1-1 draw with an in-for Real Bites at the Alexei Olympic Luce companies. But the Councillors came through an impressive, exciting Copa Real Rey semi-final last week as they completed a 5-4 aggregate victory over Atletico Madrid in the Cup. But Flick's side relentless and high scoring throughout the campaign. But Borussia parts campaign with Nuro Sanse in January, but replaced him with Nico Kovacic. The Germans, much like last season, they have underwhelmed in the Bundesliga, but they are looking to put that one side to go on a deep run into the Champions League. But they managed back-to-back victories against Marseille and Wegeberg since returning from the March international break. But they do remain outside the top 7 European spots ahead of this weekend. But Barcelona have perhaps slowed down in the last week, but also having already played 4 matches since the March international break. They will surely raise their game back to the correct level ahead of the visit of Dortmund. But Kovacic is a canny coach, but Dortmund have some recent strong European pedigree, but they have been verging of being categorised as a crisis club throughout the campaign. So a comfortable Barca win, especially with home advantage, is to be expected for this first leg. And I'm going to go for 3-0 Barcelona. I'll say 3-0 Barcelona. Right. PSG versus Aston Villa. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Plymouth. Come on. Come on. Yeah. Lewis Encry and Paris Saint-Germain are chasing the treble this season as the dominant side of French football take on an excellent Aston Villa at the Prince this week. But Paris Saint-Germain were crowned French champions at the weekend, and they edged past Ange by a goal to nil at the French capital, courtesy of a 55 million by Desire due strike, with 6 games of 2024-25 Ligue 1 campaign to go. But they are yet to lose domestically. But their domestic perfection was shown last week. But they came from 2-0 down to defeat Ligue 2 Duca by 4 goals to 2 in the semi-finals of the Coupe de France. But just like they did in Barcelona in 2015, but losing equally is on another trouble. But I know they beat my team Liverpool in the last 16 of the Champions League. Right. Unai Emery has been the master of getting what would be described as the middle to large clubs throughout the latter stages of European competitions, with 4 Europa League titles to his name, as well as several other European finals and semi-finals throughout his career. But he's now looking for another European semi-final, with the Villains in excellent form at the moment. Most recently defeated Nottingham Forest by 2 goals to 1 at the Villa Park at the weekend to make it 6 consecutive victories across all competitions for the Villains. So Paris Saint-Germain have been relentless of high scoring throughout the campaign, with a reason, but their stodgy display at the weekend, more due to rest and rotation ahead of this one. But Unai Emery is a coach who would back them be able to limited from strengths of opposition's attack, but perhaps back their performances this season. They have come in for more open games, whether but they have to be able to, with speed and slickness, strengths teams on the counter-attack. Paris Saint-Germain remain favourites for the tie, but this first leg may not be straightforward for the French champions. I'm going for a bit of an upset here. I'm going for a 2-1 for Aston Villa. 2-1 Villa. Right, move on to Thursdays, as Olympique Lions have been chaotic and entertaining to watch throughout the campaign as they now prepare to take on an indifferent Manchester United. In their 28 League 1 matches so far this season, they have been 92 goals in a chaotic and entertaining form has been the case in Europe too. But Olympique Lyonnais' Paul Fonseca's is banned from the dugout domestically. They'll be on the touchline in Lyon this week, but after their 2-1 defeat of Lille at the Empire League of Ligue 1 at the weekend, but now facing a Manchester United side that have become tenders to watch as Ruben Amorim attempts to get the grips of very average squad, but that is clearly very limited. But both teams of quality and quantity in attack. They shared a very goalless draw with Manchester City in the Manchester derby at the weekend yesterday. Lyon will simply need to get after United side, and that do appear to be a lot more settled at the back. But the amount of quality that Lyon have in the final third, but as well their home advantage, would appear to have very good reasons as to why to decide with Lyon. And I'm going for a 1-1 draw for Lyon. Right, let's go for the Rangers. Barry Ferguson and his Rangers side are coasting towards the end of the Scottish Premiership season, but they are now focused for another European run as they take on Athletic Club at Ibrox. But Barry Ferguson inherited charge of Rangers before their Europa League last round of 16 against Fenerbahce last month, but the Bears managed to pull off an impressive first leg win in Istanbul before they defeated Fane on penalties at Ibrox. But the 2022 Europa League runner-ups are now 13 points adrift of the league leaders Celtic with 6 games to go domestically. But they now face Athletic Club side, but now they played a very entertaining style of football with the deep, impressive athletic squad with courtesy of the likes of Alexei Scar and NK Williams and Nico Williams, but they are struck inside the top 4 La Liga after a sharing goalless draw with Villarreal at the weekend. But Rangers have pulled off some impressive and surprising results throughout their European campaign this season. But Athletic are a slick and stylish step up, but what have been faced thus far. And I'm going to go for a 2-1 win for Rangers. Right. Spurs again. Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham Hotspur side are preparing to take on Lecce Frankfurt in Europe, as they could be a final beginning of the end of the Australian boss in North London. But the Tottenham Hotspur, of course, from their worst ever Premier League season, and the pressure remains very much on Ange Postecoglou, despite the supporters, mainly directly, that injure at the club injury. Spurs did most recently edge past the bottom of the table and now relegated Southampton by 2-1 at the weekend. 3-1 it was, but the 2022 Europa League winners, Frankfurt, are now searching for more European glory. You know, as Dempo's Insanes are heading into the quarterfinals, but did though continue their inconsistent form. But Tottenham are very often very entertaining to watch, but Frankfurt are simply a better side. It would therefore be sense to a side with them ahead of their first leg this weekend. But I'm going for Spurs to win 3-0. But Liga Warsaw have drifted to 5th in the Polish League, but now have a European quarter-final against the 2-time champions of Europe, Chelsea, to look forward to this week. So La Liga Warsaw coming into this one on the back of much needed come from 2-1 behind, but a low K. But now I don't know about Warsaw, but they now face a Chelsea side that have been generally very poor since mid-December when Enzo Maresca began to fiddle around. But what happened to be appeared by settled competition 11 as well. So the club history is producing another bizarre winter transfer window, but they did manage to defeat Copenhagen in a round of 16 of Europa Conference League. But it appeared to be the case that Maresca was resting for the players this week's trip to the Polish capital. So a Chelsea victory is to be expected, but it could be quite a high scoring affair. But Chelsea coming on the back of a 0-0 draw against Brentford. But I'm going for a 3-0 win for Chelsea. But that's my predictions then for the Champions League, Europa Conference League, European football predictions. Leave on your comments below, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye. Peace out.